The music world fell silent on June 2, 2026. For millions of fans across generations, it was almost impossible to imagine a world without the voice of Peabo Bryson. Yet on that heartbreaking evening, the legendary singer passed away at the age of 75, leaving behind a legacy that had touched countless lives over more than 5 decades. According to family statements, Bryson suffered a stroke on May 31st and was placed under medical care. Just 2 days later, surrounded by loved ones, he peacefully passed away as those closest to him gathered by his side. The family described a room filled with love, gratitude, and sorrow as they said goodbye to a man whose voice had become part of the soundtrack of millions of lives. News of his passing spread around the world within minutes. Fans who had grown up listening to his music struggled to process the loss. Social media became flooded with tributes, memories, and messages of gratitude. Many shared stories of weddings, anniversaries, first dances, and cherished family moments accompanied by Peabo's unforgettable songs. Others simply wrote that one of the greatest voices they had ever heard was gone. The grief was immediate. It was personal. Because Peabo Bryson had never been just another singer. He was the voice people turned to when they wanted to celebrate love. He was the voice that comforted broken hearts. He was the voice that made listeners believe in romance, hope, and possibility. Fellow artists reacted with shock and sadness. Musicians who had admired him for decades described him as a master vocalist whose talent could never truly be replaced. Tributes poured in from every corner of the entertainment industry, praising not only his extraordinary artistry but also his kindness and generosity. But to understand why his passing affected so many people, it is necessary to understand the remarkable journey that came before it. Born Robert Peabo Bryson in Greenville, South Carolina, he discovered music at a young age. Long before sold-out concerts and Grammy Awards, he was simply a young boy with an extraordinary gift. As a teenager, he began performing professionally, developing a vocal style that blended soul, R&B, pop, and gospel influences into something uniquely his own. Years of dedication eventually led him to record his debut album in the mid-1970s, launching a career that would span more than 50 years. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Peabo Bryson had established himself as one of the most respected voices in R&B. Unlike many artists who chase trends, Bryson focused on timeless emotion. His songs were rich with passion. His delivery was effortless. And his voice possessed a rare warmth that instantly connected with listeners. Hits such as Feel the Fire, I'm So Into You, and Reaching for the Sky helped build a loyal audience. Then came a series of romantic ballads that elevated him to another level entirely. Songs like If Ever You're in My Arms Again showcased not only his vocal power but also his ability to communicate deep emotion through every note. Yet what truly separated Peabo Bryson from many of his contemporaries was his extraordinary talent for collaboration. Throughout his career, he recorded unforgettable duets with some of music's biggest names. His partnership with Roberta Flack produced Tonight, I Celebrate My Love, one of the most beloved love songs ever recorded. His work with Natalie Cole demonstrated a remarkable chemistry that captivated audiences. But it was during the 1990s that Peabo Bryson became a global icon. In 1991, he joined forces with Celine Dion to record Beauty and the Beast for Disney's animated classic. The song became an international sensation. Its soaring melodies and heartfelt performance introduced Bryson to an entirely new generation of listeners. The duet earned widespread acclaim and became one of the defining songs of Disney's modern era. Then came another historic moment. In 1992, Bryson teamed up with Regina Belle for A Whole New World from Disney's Aladdin. The song became a cultural phenomenon. Its success was unprecedented, reaching audiences around the globe and cementing Bryson's place in music history forever. Those Disney classics earned him 2 Grammy Awards and transformed him into one of the most recognizable voices on earth. But awards never seemed to define him. What mattered most was the emotion he created, the connection he built, the memories he helped form. For more than 5 decades, his music accompanied life's biggest moments: weddings, celebrations, reunions, and even farewells. His family later described his voice as the soundtrack to many of life's most cherished memories. Perhaps that is why his loss feels so profound. When people speak about Peabo Bryson, they rarely focus only on chart positions or awards. Instead, they talk about how his music made them feel. They remember where they were when they first heard his voice. They remember who they loved. They remember moments that can never be repeated. And now, those memories have become even more precious. As news of his passing continued to spread, attention slowly began to turn toward what would come next. How would the music world honor such an extraordinary life? Who would gather to say goodbye? And what emotional tributes would be shared by the artists who knew him best? Among the names fans were most eager to hear from was one woman whose career became forever linked with Peabo Bryson through one unforgettable song. As plans for a funeral and memorial service began to take shape, rumors spread that her tribute could become one of the most emotional moments of the entire farewell. No one yet knew exactly what she would say. But everyone knew that when Celine Dion finally stepped forward to honor her friend, the world would be listening. The morning of Peabo Bryson's funeral arrived beneath gray skies that seemed to reflect the mood of an entire industry in mourning. Outside the memorial venue, fans began gathering hours before the service. Some carried flowers. Others held worn vinyl records, concert programs, and photographs collected over decades. Many stood quietly, sharing memories with strangers who felt more like family because they had all been touched by the same remarkable voice. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with emotion. The room was filled with musicians, producers, longtime friends, family members, and industry legends whose lives had crossed paths with Peabo Bryson throughout his extraordinary career. Large photographs displayed moments from every chapter of his life, from his earliest performances to his greatest triumphs on the world's biggest stages. Every image seemed to tell a story. Every story seemed to remind those gathered of what had been lost. As guests took their seats, many struggled to hold back tears. There was a feeling that music itself had lost one of its most beautiful voices. For decades, Peabo Bryson had represented elegance, professionalism, and genuine artistry. He had navigated an ever-changing industry while remaining true to himself. He never relied on controversy. He never chased headlines. He simply sang. And somehow, through the power of his voice, he became unforgettable. The service began with reflections from family members who spoke about the man behind the fame. They described a loving father, a loyal friend, and a deeply humble individual who never allowed success to change his character. They remembered his sense of humor, his generosity, his quiet acts of kindness that rarely became public knowledge. Again and again, one theme emerged. The world knew the superstar, but those closest to him knew an even greater man. As the ceremony continued, speakers from throughout the music industry stepped forward. Many struggled to finish their remarks. Some paused to compose themselves. Others openly wept. Each tribute revealed another piece of the extraordinary impact Peabo Bryson had made throughout his life. Yet everyone knew there was one moment still to come. One tribute that many had anticipated from the moment the funeral was announced. A tribute from a woman whose voice had become forever linked to his. When Celine Dion slowly approached the podium, a wave of emotion swept across the room. The audience immediately rose to their feet. For several moments, applause filled the hall. Not celebratory applause. Grateful applause. Respectful applause. The kind offered when words alone are not enough. As she stood before the microphone, she appeared visibly emotional. For a moment, she looked toward a large photograph of Peabo Bryson smiling from the front of the room. Then she began to speak. Her voice was soft, steady, but filled with unmistakable sadness. She said that losing Peabo felt like losing a piece of music history and a piece of her own life. She explained that while the world knew him as a legendary vocalist, she knew him as a friend whose kindness was every bit as remarkable as his talent. She recalled the first time they worked together on Beauty and the Beast. At the time, she was already building an international career, but recording alongside Peabo Bryson carried a special significance. She remembered walking into the studio and immediately feeling welcomed. There was no ego, no intimidation, only encouragement, only professionalism, only warmth. According to Celine, Peabo possessed a rare ability to make everyone around him better. He never tried to dominate a recording session. Instead, he elevated everyone who shared the room with him. She spoke about how effortlessly he performed, how every note seemed natural, how every lyric felt genuine, and how younger artists often underestimated just how difficult it was to achieve the level of excellence that came so easily to him. As she continued speaking, tears began to appear throughout the audience. Family members clutched one another's hands. Friends lowered their heads. Even veteran performers who had spent decades in the spotlight struggled to hide their emotions. Celine then reflected on the success of Beauty and the Beast. She explained that millions of people around the world loved the song because of its message. But for her, the memories behind the recording were even more meaningful. She remembered long conversations, shared laughter, moments away from the spotlight when Peabo revealed his genuine character. She described him as patient, thoughtful, and endlessly supportive. Whenever she faced challenges, she said he always found a way to offer encouragement. Whenever someone needed help, he was often among the first to step forward. His generosity extended far beyond music. He made people feel valued, she said. He made people feel heard. Those words seemed to strike everyone in attendance, because they reflected what so many others had experienced. Peabo Bryson had spent a lifetime lifting people up, not only through his songs, but through his actions. As the tribute continued, Celine shared another memory. She recalled standing beside him during live performances and feeling completely at ease because she trusted him so deeply as an artist. She knew that every performance would be exceptional. She knew that every note would come from the heart. And she knew that sharing a stage with him was both an honor and a privilege. At one point, she paused for several seconds. The room became completely silent. Then she looked toward Peabo's family. With visible emotion, she thanked them for sharing him with the world. She thanked them for supporting his dreams. She thanked them for helping shape the remarkable man everyone had come to love. Many in attendance were openly crying by then. The emotional weight of the moment seemed almost overwhelming. Yet Celine was not finished. She spoke about legacy. Not the kind measured by awards or record sales. Not the kind measured by fame, but the kind measured by lives touched. She said Peabo Bryson's true legacy could be seen in the countless people who felt inspired by his music. In the artists he mentored. In the friendships he nurtured. In the love he shared. And in the memories he left behind. She said that long after every chart statistic is forgotten, people will still remember how his voice made them feel. They will still remember the comfort, the joy, the hope, the romance, the beauty. Those gifts, she said, would never disappear. When she finally concluded her remarks, the audience rose once again. Many could not stop crying. Others simply stood in silence. There was no need for additional words. The tribute had captured something deeper than grief. It had captured gratitude. For a life well lived. For a career unlike any other. For a voice that had enriched the world. As guests slowly returned to their seats, one question remained in everyone's minds. How could any single funeral fully honor a man whose influence had stretched across generations? Because while the ceremony celebrated his life, it also revealed something even more extraordinary. Peabo Bryson had left behind far more than hit songs and awards. He had left behind a legacy that continued to shape artists, inspire fans, and define entire eras of music. And as the service drew toward its conclusion, it became clear that the full story of that legacy was only beginning to be understood. As the final moments of the memorial service came to an end, one truth echoed through the hearts of everyone present. Peabo Bryson was gone. But his voice was not. His influence was not. And the extraordinary legacy he built over more than 5 decades would continue long after the final farewell. For many artists, success is measured by awards, chart positions, and record sales. Peabo Bryson achieved all of those things. Yet what made him truly special was something far more difficult to accomplish. He earned respect. Not just from fans. Not just from critics. But from generations of musicians who viewed him as one of the finest vocalists of his era. Throughout his remarkable career, Peabo Bryson helped redefine what a great singer could be. His voice possessed power without sacrificing elegance. It carried emotion without becoming theatrical. It conveyed vulnerability without ever sounding weak. Few artists managed to balance those qualities as naturally as he did. When listeners heard a Peabo Bryson song, they immediately recognized the warmth, sincerity, and depth that made him unique. His music crossed genres and generations. R&B audiences embraced him. Pop audiences embraced him. Adult contemporary listeners embraced him. And eventually, families around the world embraced him through the timeless Disney classics that introduced his voice to millions of new fans. Many younger listeners first discovered him through Beauty and the Beast. Others fell in love with his voice through A Whole New World. Those songs became cultural landmarks. They were played at weddings, at family gatherings, at celebrations of love and hope. Years passed. New musical trends emerged. Entire generations grew up. Yet those songs never disappeared. They remained part of popular culture because they captured something universal. And at the center of both recordings was the unmistakable voice of Peabo Bryson. But reducing his legacy to only those famous duets would never tell the full story. Long before Disney audiences came to know his name, Peabo Bryson had already established himself as one of the most accomplished singers in contemporary music. Recordings became examples of how emotion and technique could exist together perfectly. He never oversang. He never relied on gimmicks. He simply understood how to communicate feeling through music. That gift became his signature, and it inspired countless performers who followed. As news of his passing spread around the world, tributes continued arriving from artists across multiple generations. Veteran performers remembered his professionalism. Younger singers praised the path he helped create. Many spoke about studying his recordings while learning their craft. Some revealed that hearing Peabo Bryson for the first time had changed the way they viewed singing altogether. Others remembered personal encounters, a backstage conversation, a word of encouragement, a piece of advice offered when it was needed most. Again and again, the stories shared a common theme. Peabo Bryson treated people with kindness, regardless of fame, regardless of status, regardless of success. The respect he earned throughout the industry came not only from his talent but also from his character. That combination made him rare. And perhaps that is why his loss felt so profound. In the weeks following the funeral, fans continued finding ways to honor his memory. Across social media, countless videos appeared featuring favorite performances and cherished songs. People shared stories about hearing his music during important moments of their lives. Some remembered first dances. Others remembered road trips. Some remembered parents who loved his music. Others remembered loved ones who were no longer here. His songs became bridges connecting people to memories they never wanted to lose. That is the remarkable power of music. And few artists understood that power better than Peabo Bryson. For decades, he sang about love, hope, longing, and connection. Those themes never go out of style because they are part of the human experience. As long as people continue falling in love, dreaming of the future, and cherishing meaningful relationships, there will always be a place for the music he created. Music historians often debate which artists leave the deepest impact. Some point to innovation. Some point to commercial success. Others point to cultural influence. Peabo Bryson achieved a rare combination of all three. He helped shape modern R&B. He achieved worldwide popularity. And he created songs that became part of everyday life for millions of people. That kind of legacy cannot be manufactured. It can only be earned. And Peabo earned it through years of dedication, discipline, and extraordinary artistry. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of his career was its longevity. Musical tastes changed dramatically throughout his lifetime. Entire genres rose and fell. The industry transformed repeatedly. Yet Peabo Bryson remained relevant because authentic talent never becomes outdated. A beautiful voice remains beautiful. A meaningful song remains meaningful. And genuine artistry continues to resonate regardless of the era. Even now, long after his final performance, new listeners will continue discovering his work. Young singers will study his recordings. Music lovers will revisit his greatest songs. Families will introduce future generations to the voice that meant so much to them. In that sense, Peabo Bryson's journey is far from over. His recordings remain. His influence remains. His stories remain. And every time one of his songs begins to play, a small piece of his spirit returns. As the sun set on the day of his funeral, many of those who attended reflected on Celine Dion's moving words. She had spoken about the emotions his voice created, about the lives he touched, about the memories he left behind. In the end, those memories may be the greatest measure of his legacy. Not trophies, not headlines, not record sales, but the countless moments when his music brought comfort, joy, inspiration, and love into people's lives. For more than 50 years, Peabo Bryson gave the world his voice. And what a gift that voice was! It helped tell stories of romance. It helped create magical memories. It helped people express feelings they could not always put into words themselves. Now, although the man himself is gone, the gift remains. Some voices fade with time. Others become part of history. Peabo Bryson's voice became something even greater. It became timeless. And somewhere, whenever Beauty and the Beast begins to play, whenever A Whole New World carries listeners back to another moment in their lives, whenever one of his classic ballads fills a room with emotion, the legacy of Peabo Bryson lives on, not as a memory growing distant, but as a living reminder that true artistry never dies. Generations from now, people may not remember the day he left this world, but they will remember the way he made them feel. And that is the mark of a legend. A voice that touched hearts. A life that inspired millions. A legacy that will endure forever.